Hey gorgeous people, I hope you're having a great Friday and jumping in with today's video. I've been missing in action. I literally did about 53 hours driving in about 10 to 12 days, as well as moving 2 houses, half a workshop, and also helping my daughter move house as well. So it's been a really intense time for me over November. Really excited to jump in with today's topic because I think it's really, really relevant. And good morning, beautiful Marguerite. Can't wait to speak with you later on today on 2AAA FM at 10:40. If you're about in the local Wagga area, definitely tune in. I'm now located up at Lake Macquarie, but I'll be ducking back for a quick visit to Wagga on Sunday. So really excited to talk about this topic, and I think it's really, really prevalent leading into obviously December. December can be a very, very emotional time for a lot of people. It often brings up or triggers family issues or challenges. It may bring up grief or loss of the loved one. It can be a really, really stressful time and overwhelming experience for a lot of people, not to mention the busyness, the stress, sometimes financial pressure, a lot of those different things. But why I wanted to speak about pain and perhaps fatigue or exhaustion, if you're experiencing this type of experience within your physical body, a lot of the time it can actually be from unprocessed emotion or unprocessed trauma. And trauma let me redefine what trauma actually is. Perhaps this is very different to what society would deem as normal trauma, but trauma is any time that we are questioning our lovability, our value, and our worthiness in the world. That feeling of enoughness. And often we can have experiences throughout life that really can kind of make us really doubt or question our own sense of lovability, our own sense of value in the world. And so when we hold on to those stories, when we hold on to those memories, and we're not processing or working through the trauma or the grief, and that's not to diminish anybody that has experienced obviously high level trauma in their life, with lots of different experiences as well. Obviously, there's a plethora of different things that can kind of occur, obviously, in one's lifetime or experience or journey. And this creates like a lot of stress build up within the body. And often our emotions are actually stored on a cellular level. This is why if somebody goes in to perhaps get a shoulder reconstruction, where they're experiencing, good morning, hello to everybody jumping on, please say hello. Oops, I've swiped all the comments away. So yes, please say a big hello, and please let me know if you've got any particular questions about this topic as well. Hey Deb, lovely to have you on here this morning. Facebook's not letting me know who else is jumping on, so sorry if I'm not calling out your name or saying hello. So this is a really relevant topic, like I said, because this unprocessed trauma or the emotions stored within the cellular DNA. So if somebody is, say, having a lot of perhaps shoulder issues or something's going on there, they go in, they get the reconstruction, or they have the shoulder surgery. Good morning, Lynn. Lovely to have you on here, darling. And then find out like 6 months later, the shoulder is still not healing. They're still in substantial pain. And often it's these patterns of pain that are showing up because there's an emotional issue that actually hasn't been healed, hasn't been looked at. I truly believe, good morning, Helen, lovely to have you on. I truly believe that the body is this amazing, incredible messenger for our soul, or the largest part of ourself. And when we're not tuned in, when we are not listening, the messenger gets louder and louder and louder until this is actually dealt with. It's literally a call to change some aspect of our life that's not working for us. And so often, like, we'll be experiencing reoccurring emotions or reoccurring perhaps despair or depression or feelings of anxiety, or feeling like, my gosh, this is not working for me, or this is so hard, or life is difficult. And these patterns of emotion will play out physically within the body. So, and I've spoken about this topic before. There's a great book called Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. She really started to break down the patterns of disease and the ideas around metaphysical illness, and where it can be almost like a spiritual or an emotional, mental issue that's actually creating disruption. Now, if you think about this on just a really logical level, anytime we experience stress in our lives, so perhaps we're anxious or worried, we're running late for work. Now that automatically, just that thought alone, even if that is not true in your reality, but you're thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be late. You're not yet late, so the experience hasn't happened, but you've had the thought. Now all the adrenaline, the cortisol is rushing through your body. Automatically, your digestive system starts to get inhibited because the body is preparing for that flight-fight response, where it's like, it doesn't care about digesting breakfast if it's getting chased by the tiger in old caveman times. Now, our body has not really progressed evolutionary in a lot of ways since then. Obviously, our lifestyle has changed tremendously since then. And back in those days, you know, like that fight or that danger would have occurred for probably about 30 minutes, and then you've gone back to that, oh, it's okay, the danger has now passed. But when we live in that chronic state of stress or the chronic worry or thoughts, it can build momentum in the system. And now what actually happens, and Joe Dispenza talks about this a lot, is the brain starts to compartmentalize. This is when we start to feel a sense of separateness within ourselves. We feel distant or withdrawn socially. We start to have these aspects of self that are conflicting against self as well. So good morning, Erica, lovely to have you on, gorgeous. And so all of these aspects can really start to, where it's like you feel guilty maybe for leaving the kids, but you know that you've, oh my gosh, but I've got to go and work because I need to go and provide, or I need to have money to pay the bills. And now we're feeling that we've got different aspects of ourselves competing against ourselves. And this is where like a lot of stress is created in the body, a lot of patterns of disease, and these different things can kind of play out. So whether that's in the endocrine system, which of course is like the main kind of control system for the body. It's the, pituitary gland, it's the hypothalamus, it's the adrenal, it's all of the HPA axis, which I've just spoken about. All of those things start to fire and wire stress hormones through the body, which start to create chronic inflammation. Now, all of your big diseases like osteoporosis, cancer, diabetes, all of those things a lot of the time start from inflammation in the body. Even depression is, an aspect of the brain that is inflamed. It could be that the gut is not functioning properly and serotonin is not being able to be created in the body. And in that case, antidepressants, things like that are not going to help because antidepressants are based on increasing the serotonin uptake. If you're not making enough serotonin, like that's not going to help. It's not going to resolve the actual issue, and in fact sometimes can make the issues a lot worse because of all the other side effects and everything else. Good morning, Jessica, great to have you on. So pain and fatigue in the body is often a state of chronic inflammation. Now if you imagine stress just on a day-to-day basis, you compound that with long-lasting grief or chronic grief that is unresolved within the body. If you bring in, things like unresolved trauma, where you're constantly in a state of guarding yourself or feeling unsafe in the world, that it's unsafe to be you, that you can't fully express yourself, you can't fully articulate or communicate your needs effectively. Now you can start to see how being in that constant adrenal state is very exhausting for the body. And the body is either in fight flight, which is a sympathetic nervous system getting activated, or it's in parasympathetic, which is rest and digest. And so that really allows the body to calm, to feel like it can rejuvenate. It starts to heal all the organs. It starts its detox processes, all of those things. But if it is in a constant state of, oh my God, I've got to keep going, I can't stop, or we feel that sense where we're eternally running from something, but we don't even know what that is, or there's just that constant feeling of pressure. And certainly, as a single mum for a lot of years, I highly recognize, my system was in that a lot of the time. That's why meditation, and there's, a lot of great modalities that help to calm the system, help to bring us out of that, because this has been, a huge thing where where this perpetuates, like I said, there's just chronic inflammation that builds up further and further in the system. Now, depending on where you're experiencing pain in your system is also quite indicative or quite telling from the emotional state or the emotional pattern that's also playing out for you. So if you're having issues with your spine, generally that will go back to support. You think on a basic level of what the body actually, what the body's function of where you're experiencing pain does. The shoulders often are where we carry things, like when we're lifting things and things like that, or where, it's the burdens that we carry, the weight that we carry, the responsibilities that we carry. The neck, flexibility in point of view, in how we look at things, in our perspective. Kidneys, all about, and pardon my language, but are you feeling pissed off? Like, are you constantly experiencing like UTIs and things like that? So all of these things are very, very indicative of the emotional patterns that are unresolved within our system. And when we take the time to really start to listen, particularly when you get that first inkling of pain. Now, if I cut my finger, if I burn, a particular finger, I will always look up what is the meaning of that, because I want the feather. I don't want the brick or the Mack truck experience. I've already been there, done that. It's not so fun. So I'm always tuning in. It's like, and because of my training around kinesiology, I know what specific muscles relate to what meridians. So I know if my left calf is hurting, which it was the other day, I know adrenally, because that's related to the adrenal meridian. And I know adrenally, I'm pushing myself a little bit too much, and it's the internal pressure because it's on the left side, which relates to the feminine, which relates to our inner world. So through my experience as a kinesiologist, and doing that for years and years and years, and just my intuition of tuning in, I can often nail somebody's ailment related to an emotional aspect for them pretty fast. If you have generalized pain in your body, it means that you're experiencing general pain in your life on an emotional level. So there's a lot going on. Perhaps there's a lot of disruption to the normal flow of your life, or what's actually going on. Perhaps you might be feeling a bit lost within yourself, or experiencing grief in several different areas of your life. Remembering grief is one of the most debilitating emotions, simply because it's so low down on the emotional guidance scale, as is powerlessness. I'm glad, Helen, that this is making sense for you, honey. And Lynn, yes, I'm glad that that also resonates for you, darling, because it's so important to understand these patterns, because when it goes unresolved, when it's not looked at, when it's not healed, then like I said, the message just gets louder and louder, and often then people end up with chronic illness. And the biggest misconception, and I'm a huge fan of Western medicine. It has its place for sure. If I cut my leg open, I'm definitely going to get stitches. I'm not going to sit there and I'm not going to meditate them. I'm going to do that as well, but I'm not just going to only just meditate and hope and pray that my leg gets better. Like, I'm going to go get that fixed, right? So there's a time and place for everything, and it's really about intuitively knowing how to shift and how to change that. But this is why Western medicine doesn't always resolve all the issues, and it kind of gets a little bit unexplained. Like, sometimes the doctors are even throwing their hands up in the air going, I don't know, I just don't know what else to do. Or you're just going for reoccurring medical testing, and it's kind of like vague and nebulous, because we are a whole system. So when you're treating just one aspect of the body and going, oh, well, it's just this part that's dysfunctioning. No, it's like systemic. And we've got to look at mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, what else is going on in your life, what else is happening in your relationships, what else is happening in your support network, to really resolve this. And at a deeper level, what's actually the belief or the story that you're holding on to that's maintained this pattern of disease for such a long time. And often that can take working with somebody, because we all have blind spots. And let's face it, when it's kind of like, the boiling frog kind of story, like, if a frog jumps into the water and the heat gets turned up gradually, like the frog doesn't know that it's in trouble until like right at the last second, and it's like, oh my God, it's like almost too late. And so when we've lived with a certain condition, when we've lived with a certain pattern, often we normalize it or we deny it to minimize the pain in order as a coping strategy. And again, like I said, the message just gets louder other. So if you have got stuff going on, if you are experiencing pain, and especially fatigue, because fatigue means that there's something going on, or even numbness in your emotion. It's a really big one. I've experienced a little bit of this over the last few days as I've moved in and out of my ebb and flow of a little bit of grief that I'm experiencing from transitioning, moving away from my children, and it's just a huge major life change. It's not to say there's not lots of excitement and joy on the other side of that as well, which I am also experiencing, but there's lots of ebbs and flows with that. And so it's really important, like I said, to take the time to allow the emotion to come up. I know in that moment that I feel numb, there's something else going on at a deeper level, and it's kind of a bit of a coping mechanism in that moment. And I take the time out to get clear on what actually is that, and to allow my body to process that. And that's years and years of training, years and years of really understanding what are the tools and the strategies, because let's face it, most people don't like facing their emotions, find that their emotions are really uncomfortable and kind of, just annoying and frustrating, and don't want to have to deal with that. And we kind of sweep it under the carpet. But your body is telling you specifically that there is something going on that you haven't dealt with. And I can promise you, on the other side of it is absolute incredible freedom. Not only do you feel freedom from pain, freedom from, having greater energy instead of feeling exhausted and tired and depleted all the time, but you're also free from the dysfunctional patterns that have been playing out perhaps in relationships, or even just in the feelings that you've been having about yourself and how you perceive yourself, what your sense of value is, and what's your sense of lovability, which of course impacts our intimate relationship. It impacts our relationship with our kids. Anything we're judging within ourselves, we project that onto other people, and then we get triggered by their behaviors. And so if that's going on, all of this can get resolved by working on that deeper healing process for yourself. So if that is you, please PM me, send me a message. Let's book in a time to have a chat. I have an amazing new program, and we can see if and how, number one, what's your root cause of your issue that's actually going on at a deeper level, and see if and how I might be able to help you move through that. It's a really, really powerful program where just even one of my most recent clients that went through the program tripled her income as a result of what she actually learned. And she'd actually been a long-term client of mine, but because of the specific layout and what we actually moved through in the program, she got massive benefits, which then in turn flowed on for greater productivity, greater flow within her work. And of course, when we value ourselves, we know our sense of lovability, we're no longer questioning or staying in that level of self-doubt, then we embrace a greater sense of income, a greater sense of abundance, a greater sense of health, a greater sense of vitality. All of those things really start to amp up in a really beautiful way for ourselves as well. So if that's you, if that resonates for you, or if you know somebody that's really experiencing a lot of pain and exhaustion at the moment, of course, leading up to Christmas, it is an overwhelming time. Please take care of yourselves. Please reach out, or please send them this video, or tag them perhaps in this video. And if you've got benefit from this, please, as always, like, love, or share this, or all three. And have an amazing day. Loads of gratitude, loads of love to you all for tuning in. And sending you the biggest hugs and lots of healing love, particularly moving into this potentially busy time of the year as well. So good morning, Janine. Lovely to have you on, honey. Thank you all for tuning in. Have a great day. Bye for now.